Hello everyone, it's Tracy. Welcome back to my channel. Thanks very much for joining me. Today I'm doing the assembly tutorial for the 3D Ferris wheel. This project has been designed by Nicole Silhouette here on YouTube, and I shall link her YouTube channel in the description box below. The 3D Ferris wheel is available as a digital cutting file in Nicole's Etsy store, and whilst it's not available as a die set yet, it will be available soon in the KSCraft Lovers store, and I shall link both of those places in the description box below. For today's tutorial I am using the digital cutting file, so I have all the pieces cut out and I'll go through them with you now. Let's get started. So I have all the pieces here and I'll go through them with you now. We have this piece here and you'll need to cut this 8 times. That's the stand of the Ferris wheel. Then we have the wheel and you'll also need to cut this out 8 times. Then we have these 2 stars. You only need to cut this twice. And then we have the base of the stand. You'll only cut this once. And you can see where I've gone ahead and put the double-sided tape on the glue tabs and also on this underneath side of that glue tab, which will fold down and attach to the underneath side. Then we have the pieces that make up the carriages, and to begin with we have this piece here and you'll need to cut that 6 times. And you can see where I've gone ahead and put the double-sided tape on the glue tabs. The piece will go like this and those tabs will fold down and attach to the outside edge of the carriage. I'll go through that with you a bit more later. These pieces here are the ends of the carriages and you'll need to cut that 12 times. You'll also need some dowel that is 8mm in diameter. We'll cut it to the proper length a little bit later in the tutorial, but it needs to be 8mm in diameter. You'll also need some drinking straws, and the drinking straws you need to have a diameter of 6mm. And we'll cut those to length a little bit later on as well. So to get started, we'll take the 8 round shapes that make up the wheel, and we'll take the 8 triangle shapes that make up the stand, and we'll separate these into piles of 4. So 2 piles of 4 for the wheel and 2 piles of 4 for the triangle. And you can probably guess what's going to happen here. We're going to be gluing those piles of 4, one on top of each other, for strength. So I'm just working on the triangle piece here that makes up the stand of the Ferris wheel, and I'm gluing my first 4 pieces one on top of the other. And that's going to make a piece that is 4 layers thick. I'm just using my burnishing tool to press things down. Glue is the best thing to use here. So I've got one shape here that is 4 layers thick. Moving on to the second shape, gluing the 4 pieces one on top of each other, and this piece will be 4 layers thick as well. Just pressing everything down. And I'm going to put this somewhere so that it can dry and be flat. You can see that's 4 layers thick. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the wheels. Take the first pile of 4, glue them one on top of each other so that we have 2 wheels that are 4 layers thick. I have got this sped up quite quickly, but you get the gist of what's happening here. And I've just popped these under my cutting mat for the time being so that they can be kept nice and flat. So that's our first wheel that is 4 layers thick, and I'm moving on to the second wheel doing the same thing. Gluing each of them one on top of each other so that they are 4 layers thick. So just getting these layers glued together. You'll need to work a little bit quickly so that your glue doesn't dry before you join your pieces together. And then press down to make sure everything's getting a good hold. And then you will have 2 wheel pieces that are 4 layers thick and 2 stand pieces that are 4 layers thick. And that will give your Ferris wheel some strength. So I'll move on now to the carriages, and I have one here that's already made, and this is what my carriage is going to look like. And I'll go through with how to make one of these. So I've got this main piece here and two end pieces. Just going to remove the backings off the adhesive on the glue tabs, and the end piece gets positioned like so, and then join up at the sides here. Do the same thing on the other end. Just attach the main piece in the center there, and then attach the sides. These glue tabs that hang over the edge, they will get folded down and attached, but we'll put the decorative layers on before we do that. So I've got the decorative layers for the carriage that I'm going to put on. So we have got two of these decorative layers for the outside edge of the ends of the carriages. I also cut them again in white, and I'm going to put them on the inside. So it's just going to add some strength. Then we have a base piece for the bottom of the carriage, and I've cut the same piece in the purple colour. You can do your decorative layers however you like. I've got my side piece here. There's two of those, and then there's another decorative layer that will go on that side, and you can use that or not, it's up to you. I've also made another trim piece. This is not included in the die set nor the cutting file. It's just a piece I cut myself that I wanted to put on that side piece. So I'm going to go ahead now and glue all my decorative panels in place so that you can see how they go. So I've got my silver pieces here that go on the ends. Just getting those glued into position. Then I'm going to put the decorative panels the same size as the outside ones. I'm going to put them on the inside to cover the glue tabs. On both sides. Then put the bottom layering piece in, and on the bottom, that's optional, you don't have to put that one on the bottom if you don't want to, but you may as well put as much strength into your little carriage as you can. I didn't put any on the inside there on the sides, but I have got my outside ones here. They go in place on the outside. And this is the time to adhere this other glue tab down. So just take the backings off and press that glue tab down. It's been designed to go on the outside like so. And you would leave it till you've done your decorative panels before adhering that down into place. Then I'm going to stick the remaining panels in place for the little carriages. Again, this piece is optional, you don't have to use it if you don't want to. It just depends on what colours you're going to use and how you're going to use them. You can decorate your little carriages and your whole Ferris wheel however you like, and use whatever decorative panels that you want to. I'm not sure what decorative panels will be included in the cutting die set, but they are all available in the digital cutting file. So I've just got those glued into place, and then I'm going to glue those little silver strips onto the outside edge there. This was something additional that I wanted to do because I wanted to bring a little bit more silver onto my carriages. It's totally optional, you don't have to do this if you don't want to. They were just 1/4 inch strips that I cut manually. And that's the little carriage complete. That's quite a good size, so it'll fit quite a few goodies inside. So I've got two there, identical, and I'll just show you how to put together one more carriage without the decorative panels. So the end pieces get positioned like so, the sides join up, and do the same thing on the other end. Just get that end piece into place, And with those glue tabs on the sides there, don't do anything with those just yet. So I went ahead and I finished off all of my carriages, so I have 6 now that look identical, with all the decorative panels in place. I wouldn't do any more decorating to your little carriages than what the decorative panels are. If you put anything along the edges, it's likely to get caught and your Ferris wheel won't work properly. So I've got here the 2 stand pieces and the 2 wheel pieces, and I've also got the decorative panels. So I'm gluing the decorative panels into place onto those 4 pieces. So I've just got one done for the wheel, get the other wheel done. You'll need to work a little bit quick on the wheel pieces so that your glue doesn't dry before you stick your decorative panel into place. And then I'll put the decorative panels in place onto the stand of the Ferris wheel. Making sure the glue gets a good stick. And we have our decorative panels in place. So it's time now to assemble our base of our Ferris wheel. So I've got our side pieces here that will attach to the base. Just going to remove the backings and stick one side piece to that larger glue tab in the center. Join the other one on. Bearing in mind these 2 side pieces are 4 layers thick of cardstock. Turn it over, make sure the glue's got a good stick, rub it with my burnishing tool. Then I'm going to take the backings off these little side tabs and join the sides up. And you'll see there is a tab at the top there. We'll fold that down later. Just doing the other side tab to join that side onto the base. Move over to the opposite side, do the same thing. So just joining that last side together, just move these top tabs out of the way to take the backings off. And these will fold down and adhere against themselves on the inside, and that's going to give those ends some strength. I'm also going to go ahead and cut some more decorative panels, the same as the ones on the front, to go on this inside edge. So I went ahead and did that, and I've got them here. These are the same as the front, they've just cut from white, and it's going to go on that inside, because it's going to add some strength and also to cover the glue tabs. And I've got the other decorative panels there for that base piece too. So I'll just glue these panels in, and like I said, it's going to add another layer of strength and cover those glue tabs, and that way those glue tabs will not come apart. So it's looking nice and neat on that inside edge now. Do the same thing with the other side. I would recommend doing this just for the sheer fact that it'll make those glue tabs more secure down the bottom, because they're covered with another layer of cardstock. So it's going to add more strength and make it more secure. So I've also got the other decorative panels here for the base of the Ferris wheel. Just putting those into place, making sure I'm being as precise as I can. I've just got these last 2 panels to go, one for the bottom and one on the inside. You see that I've cut the bottom one from white. You could leave it off if you wanted, but I would put it on for the fact of strength. You want the base of the Ferris wheel to be as strong as you can make it, because it has to support both the wheel and the carriages and whatever little goodies you'd like to put into your carriages. So if you can make this base stand as strong as you can, then you should. So I'm just sticking that last panel into place, pressing it down, making sure it's getting a good stick. And there's our stand for our Ferris wheel. So I'm going to move on now and give you the dimensions for your dowel piece. It needs to be 11 centimeters in length. So I've trimmed mine down to 11 centimeters, and I've got a little piece of sandpaper here and I'm just cleaning up the end. I had to go and get a saw from the shed and saw it. So I'm just making sure that that end's nice and smooth. And I'm just going to push it into that hole just so that it's getting used to that shape. It is a snug fit, and it does also turn. Just making sure that my stand is looking good. And then I'm going to move on to these white stars that I showed you earlier, and I'm just sticking the decorative panels in place. Sometimes when you get glue on silver mirror board, it can be difficult to get off. I have found that using a baby wipe gets the glue off quite well. So you see I'm just wiping away the excess glue that has got on my silver mirror board with just a baby wipe. You do need to be a little bit gentle, but it does remove it quite well. So I just thought I would share that tip. So these stars are going to get attached to the wheel pieces there, and I'm going to use some foam dimensional tape. So I've got my foam dimensional tape here, and I'm just cutting it to fit into the pointy parts of the star here. And I apologise, I'm a little bit out of frame. I get caught up when I'm making something. I forget to check that I'm still in frame sometimes. So I'm just sticking some foam dimensionals around. You just put them any way that you like. There's no rhyme nor reason. Just peeling all the backings off, and this goes into position on the face of your wheel, like so. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other one. And this is to help with spacing between the wheel and the side of the Ferris wheel. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to call it a carousel. But it's not a carousel, it's a Ferris wheel. So just sticking that other star into place, like so. So I've got the straws here, and it's just an ordinary drinking straw, and I've cut mine at 8 centimeters. You could do 8.5 if you wanted. It depends on the gap you want between the carriage and the side of the wheel. The 8 centimeter length of the straws I think is perfect. So I've also got some silver brads here. They're a little bit wider in diameter than the end of the straw, and they're going to get glued into the ends like so. So I have another tip for you guys. If you do struggle getting the paper straws in the 6mm diameter and they're very snug in the holes of your carriages and your carriage doesn't swing properly, if you have one of these Marvy jewel picker tools, which I'm sure a lot of us do have, the part past the small tip here is the perfect diameter, and it has a perfect stop point there to stretch the hole to the perfect size. Doing this will not tear the paper around the hole, and it just stretches it to just the right diameter to fit the straw in nicely so that it swings nicely. I do know that not all straws in the world are created equal diameter, and some of you may struggle getting the right diameter, and if you've got a straw that's a little bit bigger in diameter than what's required, at least you can stretch the hole. So I'm just going to do that on all of my carriages, and I will do it to the wheel as well, just to make those holes a little bit wider in diameter to accommodate the thicker straw. You can also change it in the digital cutting file if you like, but it's just as easy to do this. And the people with the die set will not have the option to be able to make their hole bigger apart from doing something like this. It's just something I thought I would share, and it worked perfectly for me. So you can see that I'm just doing all of my carriages, and I do the hole from both sides. It's just the perfect amount of stretching. You may not need to do this, your straws may be the right diameter. But in case they're not, sometimes you just have to use what you have on hand. And if you can only buy the thicker diameter straws, then that's all you can do. This is a good workaround and it worked perfectly for me. And you can see I'm just testing here to make sure that I'm happy with the diameter now of the holes in my carriage. And it's working perfectly. So I've just moved ahead here now, and I'm going to put the brads into the ends of the straw, but I'm just going to do one end at a time, and I'm using hot glue. I apologise that I'm out of frame a little bit here. I did not have my reflecting software on at this point. So I've just gone ahead and I'm putting the brad into one end of a straw, and I'm going to do that with all of the 6 straws. So I'm just getting them out of the carriages now. I did have them in the carriages just to check to make sure that I was happy with the fit. And you can see I've already put one carriage in place onto the 2 wheels. Now I did that because I wanted to make sure that I had them glued in correctly so I could show you guys in the correct way. So I'm just going ahead here and I'm going to put brads in just one end of each straw. Just putting a little bit of hot glue in and then pushing the brad in. I'm not splitting the ends of the brad, just putting them in until I get a good hold with the hot glue. Just doing one end. Just holding it until that glue takes hold. And hot glue is the best thing to use for this. So I think that's all of them. And now I'm going to put the carriage onto the Ferris wheel. And the best way to do that is to feed the straw through the wheel that's on the right hand side until that brad meets the edge of the wheel. Thread the carriage on and then poke that through the wheel that's on the left hand side. Then I'm going to tip the wheel on its side and I'm going to take a brad, get the hot glue gun, put some hot glue down the hole of the straw and push the brad down into place. Just taking care not to burn your fingers because the brad is made of metal and metal will conduct heat. So it will make the end of the brad hot, so be careful. So I'm just waiting here for that glue to take a hold. And we have now 2 carriages on our Ferris wheel. So I'm going to take another straw that has one brad in the end, feed it through the hole on the right, thread the carriage on, push it all the way through to the hole on the left hand side. Rest it on its side and do the same as before. Take a brad, fill the hole with the hot glue and push the brad into the straw. and just waiting for that glue to take a hold before moving on. It's always tricky working with hot glue. It seems to go everywhere. So I've got 3 on there now. I'm going to take another straw with a brad in it, hole on the right hand side, push it through, thread the carriage onto the straw, and then push it out through the hole on the left side of the wheel. Rest it on its side, fill the hole with glue, and put a brad in there. I'm just making sure that that's getting a good hold. So I've just tipped it over onto the other side, just to use the work surface as a bit of force. So I've got 2 more carriages to put on. I'm just making sure things are looking good. And the same as before, thread the straw through the right hand side, thread the carriage on, and through the left side. You don't have to do it this way if you don't want to. It was just the easiest way I found to do it. Just take your time here, don't rush. When you're dealing with hot glue, it can get messy, so just take your time. And that's carriage number 5 on, just using my work surface for a bit of force there to push against, making sure that hot glue gets a good hold. Just moving the carriage out of the way so I can put the remaining carriage on. So just feeding it through, grabbing the carriage and pushing it out the other side. And getting rid of a few of the strings. Just getting the glue into the hole of the straw and putting that last brad into place. And I'll just wait for that glue to set up. And then I'll take a look at the Ferris wheel and make sure things are sitting nicely and looking good. So our Ferris wheel is coming together nicely now. We've got all our carriages on, and I'm just checking to make sure that the glue is holding on all of the straws. Just take away some of the glue strings, and I'm just taking an overall look, making sure I'm happy. There's a little bit more work to do with the carriages, but I'll get onto that a little bit later. And I'll move on to now putting the Ferris wheel onto the stand. So I've got our dowel piece here that's 11 centimeters long, 8 millimeters in diameter, and that fits nicely through that center hole. Just pushing that all the way through. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, I don't really like the way that these carriages are not secure. I would like the brads attached to the outside rims of the Ferris wheel. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a fit test first into the stand to make sure I'm happy that this is all fitting nicely. And I'm going to come back to these carriages in a moment. Yes, I'm not happy with the way this is moving. I need to move the edges of the Ferris wheels onto the brads and glue them into position, like I'm sort of demonstrating here. And this is something that you do need to work through when you're putting together something like this with the 3D projects. And Nicole and I were discussing this. She did mention this to me, that I will need to glue these side pieces of the Ferris wheel to the underside of the brads, So it's always good to test things and see what works the best for you. So I've just taken the wheel off the stand now, and I'm going to run a little bit of glue around underneath the brad. And it isn't a lot of room to maneuver the hot glue gun, but it doesn't need to be a lot of glue. You could also use bigger brads. I only used the size brads that I had in my stash. And then I'm just going to push the underneath part of the brad against the edge of the Ferris wheel. And I did have to do a little bit of cleanup work around the edges of the brads with the hot glue, and I did that just with a scalpel and my pokey tool. Just very carefully removed the excess glue. You wouldn't be able to put any embellishments or anything like that over the top of it, because then the wheel wouldn't turn properly. So I'm just working my way around, putting some glue underneath that brad and pushing it against the edge of the Ferris wheel. And like I said, you don't need a lot of glue, just enough to pull the edges of that Ferris wheel against the brad. It's also going to stabilize things so that the Ferris wheel is not wonky. And this is probably the most trickiest part, because it's difficult to get in under those brads with the nozzle of the glue gun. So just take your time. You can just see I'm using scissors there just to cut away some of the excess glue. Things did get a little bit messy, but I managed to clean it up without too much trouble. You also don't have to do it like this if you don't want to. If you can find a better way of putting your Ferris wheel together, by all means. My tutorials are only ever a guide, they're not set in stone. So I'm just going around making sure that I've got all of the brads. The underneath side is attaching to the rim of the wheel, and I had one come loose on the other side, so I'm just going back and reattaching that one, and then going back to the side I was working on. And it just pulls the sides of the Ferris wheel against the brads, giving the carts or the carriages more room to move. You can do your straws longer if you want to. You can do 8.5 centimeters instead of 8. But I'm happy with how this turned out. So I'm just reattaching the Ferris wheel onto the stand, and things are sitting a lot better. You don't want to embellish the sides of your carts, because they are very close together and they will touch and then they won't turn properly. You can see mine are turning fine. It's very difficult to show a front-on view with top filming on the camera. So that's my Ferris wheel just about finished. I'm just going to take it off camera now and finish decorating it, but I'm happy with how it's turning and how the carriages are sitting. So I went ahead off camera and finished decorating my Ferris wheel, and I love the way that it's turned out. I thought it would be easier to show it to you like this, and there's a little video at the end. So that's my tutorial finished for today. I hope you've enjoyed watching and that you feel inspired to make one of these 3D Ferris wheels. If you do, don't forget to share pictures on Nicole's Facebook page, and you can tag her on Instagram too, at Nicolespapercrafts. Don't forget to check the description box down below for the links that I've previously mentioned, and if you'd like to subscribe to my YouTube channel, I would really love that too. Thanks very much for watching today. Have a great day, and until next time, it's bye for now.